And welcome back to Law and Crime. We're going to take you live right now down to downtown Manhattan, where our Jesse Weber has just come outside of the Weinstein trial courtroom. You know, we just heard that Annabella Shore had taken the stand today. We understand that they're now still doing her cross-examination, but you're out of there right now because of the lunch break. Jesse, what's the latest that went on today?
Right, another dramatic and absolutely incredible day in court. This was not what we had expected. We saw her enter the courtroom early this morning, and my goodness, it's going to probably take up the rest of the day. Her direct examination was started basically understanding who she is, where did she come from, how did she become an actress, how did she gain fame, and these kinds of important matters going into that. From there, it moved into the assault, which is, again, when we were talking about that 1993-1994 time frame, and really going into the lurid details of that, and really going into everything from how did Harvey Weinstein allegedly come up to her apartment. Oh, you know what? I just got word that Gloria Allred, who's representing Annabella Shore, is right here. Let's go live.
She has been on most of the morning. There was direct examination, and now there is cross-examination by the defense. I think that she comes across as extremely compelling, very forthright. And of course, I think the most emotional part of her testimony was when she described what she alleges Mr. Weinstein did to her. That she alleged that he had come to her apartment, that she had opened the door, that she didn't know who was there suddenly at her apartment. She was not expecting Mr. Weinstein, this is her testimony this morning under oath, that he pushed his way into the apartment, that
She also needs to get a new coat. No offense,
he began to remove his
damn red
clothes.
coat every day of this
That,
trial. You're on TV every day, get a new one.
He got her onto her bed, that she was in her nightgown. She did not have her underwear on. She was preparing to go to sleep. And that he forced her into sexual acts. That she testified that he held her hands over her head. She couldn't get him off her, that she did fight back, that she said no, that he did not stop, that his penis entered her, that after that that he orally copulated her, that she had no romantic interest in Mr. Weinstein, that she did not want him to do what he did, that he left at some point, and that she woke up the next day on the floor. And that was very, very moving testimony. She testified that she didn't think of it as rape at that time because she just didn't identify it that way, but she certainly didn't consent to it. I think that the jury is paying a lot of attention, and I think that they appeared to listen to her very, very carefully. It was hard for her to go back over all of that, but she did. She was very, very brave. She's extremely courageous. And of course now I think what the defense is trying to do is go back, and this is alleged to have taken place more than 25 years ago, and try to trap her by asking a lot of details about what happened more than 25 years ago. And she's doing her best on that. So I feel for her. It's not easy. I think the defense is going very quickly, hoping to have her trip up. So far, I don't think that she has. She's testifying to what she remembers, and she's saying what she does not remember. And I'm sure that for all of us, try to remember exactly what happened more than 25 years ago in great detail would also be a challenge. But she's being very, very brave, and I'm just honored to represent her and to support her. And I think she's extremely important to this case and to the prosecution. And she's willing to undergo all of this, endure all of the little snide remarks by the defense. I'm not going to repeat them. And she will continue this afternoon after lunch because she will still be on cross at that time by Ms. Rotuno.
She mentioned that at the time she thought of rape as something that happens in a back alley where can you talk about the changing understanding of what is rape?
Well, so since I've been practicing for so many decades, I can tell you that I've seen an evolution over that period of time of what rape is. For example, we used to, there used to be descriptions like acquaintance rape, and before that, is it rape? Is it rape if a wife says no to her husband? Can that be rape? There was a lot of discussion in state legislatures. I was part of that discussion in California about that many years ago. Is it rape if you know the person and is an acquaintance, or is it just a stranger in a dark alley? Is that rape? So this is part of the evolution of understanding that rape is rape, that if a woman does not consent to acts of gender violence, whether that person is an acquaintance, a husband, a significant partner, or anyone else, it doesn't have to be in a back alley. It could be in a hotel room. It could be in your own home. It could be in somebody else's home. It could be many places. As was proven, for example, in the Mike Tyson case, where the victim was raped in his hotel room. And a lot of people at that time said, well, how can that be rape? If she went up to his hotel room, wasn't she asking for it? Can't you just assume that she consented? And the answer of the jury was no, that was rape. So that generated a lot of controversy at the time. So I think we're all still learning about gender violence. But the bottom line is, the issue in this case is, was there consent? If the jury believes Annabella, then she said she did not consent. She did not want to have anything to do romantically with Mr. Weinstein. So we'll have to see. Whatever ultimately the jury believes, she's very brave to have undergone this examination, cross-examination, direct examination. There'll be redirect, there'll be recross. And she's only doing it because she's been asked by the prosecution to be a witness. And it's in the interest of justice to hear what she alleges happened to her.
Mrs. Allred, what's your assessment? Is the prosecution doing a good job in framing this case against Harvey Weinstein around consent and the importance of consent?
Well, I think we're going to hear the arguments later about consent. Right now, their job is to bring out the facts. These are fact witnesses. She's describing the facts. And clearly, from Annabella's testimony, it's not what she expected, it's not what she wanted, and she didn't consent to an act of sexual penetration of her. by Mr. Weinstein's genitals, and she didn't consent to any act of oral copulation by him on her. That's her testimony. I'm summarizing it, not saying it exactly, but that's her testimony. And it's very strong, clear testimony. So I'm very proud of her. There were many, many persons who alleged they were victims of Mr. Weinstein who declined to testify in this case, even though they stood by what they had told the press. But she was willing to do it. So I think we all should be very proud of her. She's a very important part of this case, testifying on the issue of sexual predatory conduct. So that's it. Enjoy your lunch. And no, she's not going to be giving interviews during the trial. I don't know at what point, if any, she'll be doing interviews, but certainly not during the trial. I'll say one last thing. I think the defense is trying to suggest that somehow, because she is professional and she is an actor and has been for many years, that somehow, I think the insinuation is that she's acting. I find that very offensive, and I do not think that she comes across that way to the jury, but again, they're the ultimate triers of fact, who's credible and who's not. And I mean, the idea that somehow because someone is in the acting profession, that they must always be acting when they tell anything about their life or anything about what they allege has been inflicted upon them, any injustice, I think that's just really offensive. Nobody has a license to commit an act of gender violence on someone because they're an actor. And any suggestion that maybe a witness is not telling the truth because she is a professional actor, or he is extremely offensive. I mean, they can make that argument. I don't think at all that Annabella Shore comes off that way. She comes across as very sincere. And I think she comes across as very truthful. But that'll be for the jury to decide. I'm just very proud of her. Thank you.
All right, that was Gloria Allred. She came out to address the media. This, of course, as court is adjourned for the lunch break. She talked about the testimony of Annabella Shore, and she talked about how this took a lot for her to come into this courtroom and testify. She said she didn't trip up. She was willing to endure and undergo all of this because she really believes that this is important. She also talked about the snide remarks that she's been facing and how she's going to have to deal with those. She also said that she didn't give consent to this act of sexual penetration by Weinstein, and she said she's not going to come out and give any interviews during this trial. She also said, lastly, that any implications that and suggestions that these witnesses are not telling the truth because they're actors is extremely offensive. So that is what we just heard from Gloria Allred out of the courtroom. They are still on that lunch break. We got to take a break right now here on Law and Crime. When we come back, we'll go back live to Jesse Weber. Stay with us.
All right, so we're continuing with the Harvey Weinstein case. As I said, court is in recess for the day, but we have our very own Jesse Weber in Lower Manhattan to give us the update as to what happened. How you doing, Jesse?
I'm doing good, Brian. Good to hear from you. So we started the second half of the day with more cross-examination of Annabella Shore by Donna Rotuno. And the first part where they went was the set of Copland, that 1997 movie. And the defense really wanted to stress the point that Miramax and Harvey Weinstein was a producer of that film, trying to say, well, Annabella Shore, didn't you know that he was the producer? Didn't you know Miramax was the producer of that? And yet he was there, he was on set, and you didn't have a problem from there. Again, the idea of you're around the person who allegedly raped you. That was the point that they really wanted to stress. Donna Rotuno also questioned how Annabella Shore's stories kept on changing. More specifically, what she highlighted was that initially when she told the DA's office and she met with them in January of 2019, she indicated that her father had accompanied her on the Cannes film press tour for Copland because she was afraid of Harvey Weinstein. She wanted her father there. Well, we learned a different story today, that her father didn't accompany her on that press tour, but an earlier press tour, trying to strike at her credibility right there. Donna Rotuno also picked apart the story that Harvey Weinstein was outside of her hotel room in Cannes in his underwear, and how that just doesn't add up. And one point she said it makes absolutely no sense. Harvey Weinstein was out there, and pointing to the fact you hit the call button in the hotel room. When did he leave? When did these people show up? Really trying to say how the story makes absolutely no sense. And then we also got a really interesting part where the defense was saying, well, since the story broke in 2017 and since you came forward, you not only got a better agent, but as we just saw, you're now represented by Gloria Allred, an acclaimed attorney who represents women in this kind of capacity. How advantageous for you. They concluded their cross-examination, which you just heard from Gloria Allred, playing a David Letterman clip from the 90s where Annabella Shore admits to lying on press tours, and David Letterman asked her, well, how do I know you're not lying about everything tonight? And she said, you don't. That's how they wanted the jury to hear that. And then we moved into the redirect from Prosecutor Aluzzi. A number of different points that she hit, but I'll just highlight a few of them. She tried to emphasize that Harvey Weinstein did have the ability to know Annabella Shore's apartment number, again, where he allegedly raped her. Although Annabella Shore didn't tell him her apartment number, it was presented to the jury that Miramax had on file that contact information. Then we heard a lot about a man named Paul Felcher, who appeared to be an associate, possible friend of Annabella Shore, not a close friend, but the defense wanted to bring out the point that she allegedly told him in so many words that she had consensual, if not unpleasant, sex with Harvey Weinstein. But the state, under cross-examination, tried to point that this man, Paul Felcher, might actually have been in the employment of Harvey Weinstein, that he might actually be paying this man to do something for him. And so it was really important to get these points out, and what an incredible day. I wish we had more time to talk about it.
I wish, Jesse, we got a minute left before Aaron Keller comes in the Daily Debrief. Just a few quick questions. Has Annabella's testimony concluded? She's done, right?
Yes, she's officially done, and we're moving on to the next witness tomorrow, Dr. Barbara Ziv, who's an expert that's very highly controversial in this case, going to be talking about rape myths and how these alleged victims should be acting, what people expect of them to act. A big question in this case. And
did the defense or anyone have her subject to recall? So could we potentially see Annabella coming back on redirect for the defense?
Not entirely clear. I didn't hear anything that would indicate that. From all that I heard, I believe she is wrapped up, but who knows? We never know what to expect in this trial so far.
All right, so Jesse Weber, thank you very much. I know it's been a very, very long day for you, so I'll let you go. We're going to continue here with Aaron Keller in the Daily Debrief in just a moment.